A little out of practice there, Jingle. Sorry. Yeah, so hello, everybody. Now, dealing with obstacles and stuff, I've dealt with a few lately. I know others have as well. And then on top of that, you have, you know, I know people have because there's people who've been through car accidents, layoffs, change of jobs, maybe the even just getting less hours or too many hours. Is just all these obstacles that kind of can sometimes really throw you for a loop. When you think things are going well and everything's going smooth, the next thing you know, you're being pulled back in, and it feels like everything's just hopeless. Every time you get ahead, you get knocked back down, and that happens. But there are some things we can do, and it's things we know we can do, but at the same time, we have to think about it. And if you get stuck in that mindset where you're just overwhelmed, it's really hard to get out of. And I just thought it was an important thing to bring up because I have to remind myself of this. It's not something that just comes naturally. It's something you have to sometimes force if you go through something serious. Jangles, you went through things in the past, for instance, and uh, Jake, I mean, anything. When you go through these things, you deal with them, and then you have to fight through it. And that's hard. It's not an easy thing to do. It's not natural. It's unnatural to feel like that because it's easier to just sit back and just say, I can't do this. And the more you try, it feels like the more frustrated you get. There's a few things you might be doing wrong and not even realizing it. And one of those things is trying to get yourself in a peaceful state of mind. If you're making rash decisions depending on the situation, sometimes you're acting out of fear. If you're acting out of fear, you make sometimes the wrong choices. Say, for instance, you lose your job. Well, you just freak out. You go home and you don't even want to deal with it. You walk around, you walk around your house or go someplace, or some people will go to the bar. All of these things and even trigger addiction issues that you might have had in the past. These are all things that are natural. That feels like the natural route. It feels natural. But the truth is, the best thing you could do, sit down, relax, take a little time, yes, relax. Maybe watch a movie or something if you have a significant other, hang out with them, or your kids if you have them, your pet. Spend some time, whatever your calming, peaceful state is, get into that peaceful state of mind, and don't just get there for a few minutes or an hour or two. Let it sink in. Then think about what you really want to do. What would you like best? Try to do that. If it's a job situation, don't just look for any job. Look first for the job that you would actually a job you would enjoy to be at. Sometimes we get in a panic situation. We take the first job that comes along, and that isn't always the best job. Sometimes we get there, and then all we want to do is just quit, and we feel like we're miserable all the time. So it's important that we take the time to think that through and not panic through it. It's not an easy thing to do. It's unnatural. A lot of things that we do when it comes to mental health for our own self good don't come naturally. We're taught some of it. Yeah, see, your pets are like kids. I agree 100%, Jingles. And we're taught, like, we did the whole men thing. Taught to, not show our emotions. Just, buckle up, all that kind of stuff. And you feel like that, and it feels unnatural to go against that because that's what we've been taught the whole time. And I don't even know if you necessarily need to be taught. It always just kind of comes naturally to men, anyways, to feel like they have to be in control. They have to be able to deal with things. But sometimes, things, you need a little help. And sometimes it's not just the help, it's accepting the fact that you can't always fix things the way you want to right away. Acceptance is the other thing you need to do when these situations. Accept the situation you're in, but it doesn't mean you have to accept you're going to stay in that situation. Yeah, I have, Jangles. We have some knuckleheads here as well. In fact, Lady Liberty's trapped under one right now. But that's accepting this is also not an easy thing. Accepting that we're dealing with this. You want to just say, why am I dealing with this? Why is this happening to me? When in reality, it's happening. There's nothing you can do about it, so don't focus on that. Yes, it's focusing on the problem, but it's not focusing on fixing the problem. Try to get past that and think about ways to get around it. And while you're thinking, try to keep that peaceful state of mind, not panic, not out of fear, not out of anger. but try to keep a peaceful state of mind. This also applies to relationships. An end of a relationship can just destroy you. Hey Matthew, Happy New Year. Yes, I have not. This is the first one of the year. Yeah, Happy New Year. Sorry, like I said, through the holidays, I was awfully busy. I am on 3 other shows a week now, so that kind of keeps me a little super busy. So, but yeah, but if you feel trapped, there's another thing. I mean, she said trapped. It has nothing. You can feel like you're trapped in a situation. That's something else. If you're miserable because of a job or a relationship, try to get yourself in a good, peaceful state of mind. And when you're in that state of mind, if you need to, and yes, if it's a relationship thing, be careful with this because it can blow up in your face. But if you're able to, in a private spot, write down what's going on, what's bothering you. If you're at a job, see if things can change at your job or relationship or whatever it might be. It could be a living situation. It could be like I need to fix the house, trying to fix different things in it. It's a huge house. Lots of work needs to be done. So trying to figure out what to do next. What can I do now? Should I wait and do a bigger project or should I do a bunch of little projects as the money comes in? That's things that have to be decided. But don't do it rationally. Don't do it like, oh yeah, I gotta do this and just go spend the money and do it. Take your time, relax, and think about it because you might be able to come up with a solution. Like, for instance, with a house, you might be able to come up with a solution to make things a little bit more affordable. Like, I just finally put in a water softener. I got off Facebook Marketplace. I saved myself about $300, and it was just because I was being patient enough. And trust me, this was not an easy patience thing. We had hard water, and it was driving me crazy. But finally was able to find one on Facebook Marketplace, like new condition, really, really cheap. So I was able to go get that, and it worked out. But that was a patience thing, and I'm telling you, that was one of the hardest things I've ever done. Because we're not talking a few years, we're talking like 3 years, 3.5, 4 years we dealt with that hard water before I finally got it. But there was other things that needed to be fixed. I took their priority first. It's not easy. And if anyone else has examples of what helps them through situations, making tough decisions when they're going through a life crisis, or have went through recently, doesn't even have to be recent. It could have been way in the past. Please speak up. And yes, Zoom is open, so if anyone wants to come in, you're more than welcome. The more the merrier. I do love to see some people interact and discuss what's going on with them because this is just from my point of view with what I've went through and what education I've had. That does not mean it's the answer for you. It just can touch on what might help you. So that's the whole purpose here. Help as much as we can, whenever we can. And a simple comment in chat. Sometimes that's all it takes is a bright person to read it, and they might not even respond to you. You might never know. It could change their life. So please just stay positive and try to help one another. Yeah, see, physically and financially, that is true. So, Jangles, in that situation, knowing your limitations, try to think of what you can that'll make you happiest in a situation you're dealing with. What's the easiest way out of it for you? It's unfortunate. Sometimes these obstacles become permanent, and we got to figure out ways to still maintain happiness throughout that. Gratitude lister might go, yeah, there you go. And please still keep on reaching out to people. I found that I did a big reach out a few days ago where I just went through my list trying to see who I could reach out to, and there are 4 or 5 people responded that I didn't know were going through some serious stuff. And that actually, I'm happy I reached out because I wouldn't have known. That's why you have to reach out. They're dealing with stuff. With the pandemic, it's been we got stuck hit with it. I know a few others in just the people in chat, people that we know are dealing with it, and it's something that it's an obstacle. We had 8 weeks. I couldn't do anything. 8 weeks at a time when I was prepping for winter, and I had to try and figure out what I could do, and I wasn't able to do much. I'll put it in chat. But 8 weeks I was fighting with trying to figure out what to do, and I couldn't do anything. I had like a few days I could not even move. Lady Liberty actually catered to me a lot during that time because I went 10 days without being able to eat. During that 10 days, I got extremely weak. 3 of those days, I wasn't sure if I was going to make it. I actually felt that weak. Yet I still managed to get up and take care of the animals that I take care of every day outside, and it was brutal. So please, just if you are someone that's going through something, please let others know. Somebody there is going to be kind enough to actually care, and you'll figure it out fairly quick. If they're just there to just because they think they want to help, but they don't really want to, they just want to be recognized, you'll figure that out. And unfortunately, that does happen. But the truth is, there will always be people that care. You just have to find the right ones. And it's good to know, even if you're in a bad spot, it's good to know for the next time you're in a bad spot because it will happen over time. You're not always, life is not always perfect. And if it is, oh, I'm so happy for you because I haven't had that experience. I've dealt with a lot of negatives in my life. A lot of bad things have happened. I just keep plugging along, and honestly, if I wrote a book, it would almost look like nonfiction. But it truly, I mean, it will look like a fictionist book, but it's not. I went through a lot of things in my past, and it's just life. Lady Liberty's actually experienced a few of them with me, and things that don't make sense. I should not be here, for instance. There's at least 7, 8 times I should have died, but I'm here. And I figured this to me feels like my purpose for being here. And I'll see whether or not how the screen turns out. Oh, you went. Jingles is above me. See, Jingles is number 1. He's on top. He's the important one. Jingles is the important one today.
What's up?
So, have you dealt with any obstacles that you've been able to pull through, and certain things helped you that may not have been the normal way?
Me?
Yeah.
My kid's what gets me through daily life.
Yeah, that helped
I
me a
mean,
great
really,
deal.
she really does. I mean, just knowing that I've got to be here for her, or believing I do. I think she's here for me more than I am for her. But yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, Gary, do your research on it. There are definitely some factors that aren't 100% safe even with the vaccine. That's true. There have been people that have gotten sick when they had it. Now, they probably had a pre existing condition that was just aggravated by it. And if
What
they
did I
got the
miss?
virus, they very well could have gotten it too. But it's all a question of what you want to do. That's why I don't try to push this either way when it comes to that. I try to keep it neutral because I'm all about personal choice. Even if that personal choice might be, as long as it's not endangering others, your personal choice should be yours. Um, Larry, yeah, it's just very important that you have that personal choice. We are losing it in this country. You know that, Jingles, very well.
Yeah.
And it's crazy how the media has actually been a big factor of that. And I feel like it's been a big factor with hiding some truths about that too, about what, and nothing's the same, nothing's centralized or universal when it comes to this. We're going through some things that was 8 weeks of ours were horrible. That was an obstacle for us. 8 weeks is a long time to be sick. I've
Oh
only ever
yeah.
been sick long once in my life, and that was with bronchitis and pneumonia back when I was a kid.
It's funny. I've got kidney disease, dialysis 3 days a week. Been doing it for, well, March will be 18 years, and I don't get sick. I mean, I've got a lot of issues with, amputations and such, but I don't get sick. So any little sniffle or whatever, just especially with what you hear in the media, just sends me through the roof sometimes. because the first thing, you know, especially losing my wife to COVID, that's the first thing I think of.
Yep. Yeah. It's just, and it's questionable. I mean, all of it is. It can happen. I mean, you have to make the
And you
choice yourself because there's no good choice there. The best choice is
don't know what
not
to
to have
believe.
this happen to us. But
You don't know what to believe with what this person will say. You know, that COVID is this bad, and the next person that's supposed to be an expert will say, you know, it's this bad and this long of a period and that long of a period.
I
You
will
don't know
tell
who
you
to
that
believe.
the Delta strain was brutal. It really was brutal. I mean, I haven't been that sick. Like I said, only once other in my life, and that was two different things that hit me at the same time. One opened me up to the other. This was all one thing, and that it was a
Yeah,
congestion. It just wouldn't leave.
you were sick
So
for a long time.
yeah, I did not expect that, and thank you. You were one of the people that reached out a few times, and thank you for that.
Yeah.
Because it is,
Um,
it's nice when you're feeling down. Addie, Addie reached out a lot. It was pretty good, and it helps because it's like it's a distraction. Yet it also, but I'm sorry I didn't get back to everybody as quick as I could. Because I was sleeping a lot to try and sleep it off. I just didn't have any energy.
well, I didn't
But
expect you to at all, but it's cool because I know how bad it is. I hadn't had it personally, but I know, you know, firsthand how bad it is and can be.
yeah,
You
it's
know, and
rough, and
it's funny how differently it affects people. Ones you know, like my wife, I thought she would bounce back from it because she bounced back from everything. You know, she was literally deathly sick, and some people you wouldn't, you know, like her, you wouldn't think would get sick at all, and then others that stay sick, you know, they get it and it doesn't affect them at all. So it's
yep.
just strange.
If you've watched, we just watched I Am Legend again recently, the one with Will Smith.
Yeah,
The as far as the way that it works, it's the same. It affects people the same way. Like there's a percentage that are immune. There's a percentage that can deal with it and kind of be okay, and then there's most
there he
people
is.
that get sick. But there's varying levels of sick, and there's the puppy. Um,
Told you, always got to have attention.
yep. And
But yeah, it's
just
crazy. And you know, it just shows that our immunities are different at a different level. Nobody. That's why we're individuals, man. We don't learn the same. Viruses, diseases don't affect us all the same.
that is a big factor, Gary. Your personal health. Like if you are borderline close to something, like quite a few people have developed the diabetes or something from it, or liver disease, and this happened because they probably already had a pre-existing condition. And I'm thinking, from my medical experience in the past, being an EMT and stuff, it seems likely that it's probably because of the fever factor. The fever probably kind of destroyed
Well,
what was
that
left of that good in that organ.
well, COVID affects different parts of your organs differently too.
Yep.
So I'm sure, like, you know, it has an effect on your pancreas. I'm sure that could cause diabetes.
Yep. And people
And
that get the shot, that is a chance you take because you might get the fever might be enough to trigger it if you're borderline. It's possible, and that's something you do need to take in effect and in account. But is it going to be worse than getting it? Your immunity is going to be better if you get it and get through it, but only for
mm,
that strain, not for the whole thing. Because there's so much. It's just like the common cold. That's why they can't cure it.
well, it's like the flu virus. You know, it. I do get the flu shot every year, but whether it helps me or not, I don't know because I never got sick
Yep.
before. I just got it because I was told I needed it, and then I'm like, wait a minute, I don't. Is that not what my immune system is for
Probably.
to build up tolerances to these things naturally?
Thank you, Addie.
So I'm kind of on the fence about getting it anymore.
Oh, you got
And
that.
that's
You
the
got that. You got um, another thing when you get sick like that. Like we were down for 8 weeks. That could be loss of job, loss of income. And if you're how do you survive with 8 weeks with no income if you get sick? Because not every I mean, there's a few jobs that have actually stepped up and done stuff for it and give you
Yeah.
some sick leave. But a lot of jobs only give you like at most a week of sick leave. If you're sick for 8 weeks,
Most of them now, with nobody wanting to work, it's probably highly likely you're going to get terminated.
exactly, you'll be
If you're
terminated within
willing,
a week.
yeah, if you're willing to work, I'm sure they'll come back when you can.
Yep.
Because I don't know how it is where you are, but there's job openings everywhere down here, from fast food to big
I
corporate
just
jobs.
saw it yesterday or day before. Yes, I think it was yesterday. We were in town and $16 an hour starting pay at McDonald's.
Well, it's like
And
14 here.
you wonder why a Big Mac costs almost $10. That's why $16 starting pay.
You
Um,
can get them two for $6.
they yeah, if they're on yeah, if you get the sale, but $16 an hour, I could not believe that because
That's
nobody
crazy.
used to work there, and it wasn't that much. It wasn't that long ago she worked there, and
I
that's
think
insane.
I was a manager at McDonald's and didn't. I don't think I made
Well, that's what my thought was. What are the
$99 an
managers getting now if that's the starting pay? And that was in
hour.
New Hampshire. So,
No, no, I
yeah.
didn't even make $9 an hour. So yeah.
And New Hampshire doesn't even have income tax. So that's actually $16 an hour.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, minus your federal tax, but yeah. But it's still, I mean, I couldn't believe that. That tells me that the jobs are there, but
Yeah.
some of that you can't even fault everyone on it because there are legitimately people that are just fearful to go out and get into that workforce because of the virus. And that's not a illegitimate fear. Especially if you have any work health issues. Like,
It's a well-founded fear. I mean, I respect it. I don't know. I mean, I think it's here to stay. I mean, I don't
I
think it's
do.
going anywhere. I think it's just going to take time for people to build up a tolerance to it
Yeah, it's going
as
to be
much as
one of those
possible.
things.
Just like influenza. It's you know, it's
Yep.
when I remember when it was, people would get it sporadically, and then as time went on, more and more and more and more people would get it, and you'd have all these deaths and illnesses from it, and it's not going anywhere. So I think this is the same thing.
It'll be one of those things. It is okay. I hate to agree with this theory completely, but it is kind of the herd immunity. But it doesn't necessarily mean if you actually have issues with this, that your body won't develop something in it, or for your kids or whatever. Over generations, it'll start to, like you said, we evolve
It's
too.
going
Yes,
to take time.
viruses evolve, but so do humans.
Yeah,
So we
that's
have that.
basically what I was getting at.
Yep.
I'm trying to find something I can prop my camera up a little better with, so you're not looking up my
Wow,
nose.
Mowgli. Base pay was $1 million almost. Wow.
Take that.
Yeah,
Well, I
they
got a big raise with Social Security, and they tried to take it with Medicare.
yeah, that's
Excuse me.
been going around. I mean, there was that big one, like 1.9% a few years ago, and everyone I know, and um, my mother included, when they got their check, it was less money than what they would have gotten if they didn't, because they upped the Medicare that year. It's like, okay, so what did they do? Just raise it so they could figure out a way to keep your money and just say that they gave you money? I mean,
I
that
mean,
seems like what happens.
I draw a decent Social Security check, if you can say that. Um, and I got a pretty decent raise. It was about $200. No, it wasn't. Yeah, it was. But Medicare, it went up over $40. I think around that, and then you got all these other prices of gas and food and everything else.
That's the one that's been hitting us hard. I should be in a better position this year. I will be in the fall because one of my major loans I took out is going to be paid off for buying the
Yeah,
house. But I'm not, because of the food factor. That's the biggest one.
yeah,
Like, you can't, for one, I can't eat the foods I really should be eating. My diet isn't as good as it should be
Can't
with
afford it.
being diabetic now because, yeah, you cannot afford it. I should be eating more meats. I know that that seems against
Exactly.
everything, but honestly, I should be eating more meats because that will help me with my carb intake. How
Yep.
do you do that when literally like bacon's $8, $9 a pound? That's
Yep.
bacon. That used to be like that's a scrap meat that they slice up and sell.
Exactly. It's pork belly. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's sliced
It's
pork belly.
it's absurd. It truly is. And it's sad that we're supposed to be the most, the most prosperous country in the
Well, I
world.
thought we were falling behind more than we are. Apparently, because this is global. Um,
Yeah,
Within this past week, I talked to some people, and I thought that our dollar was going down fast compared to other countries. But it seems that we're actually maintaining fairly well because they're having the same issue. Unfortunately, that doesn't mean that you know you have a elderly person living someplace on a fixed income, and all of a sudden now they can't afford their food.
yeah.
And if they live rural, then what do? They have to give up their house, move into a nursing home in order to be able to live. They aren't going to do that. They probably just wither away and die. Because that, and especially if they get sick and they can't afford the, they're already not healthy because they're not eating the right foods. Then they get
Which is what
sick.
I'll do eventually when Danica goes away because I won't go in a nursing home. And if I can't get somewhere, I'll just with. I got DoorDash. I'm all right. Can't afford DoorDash because I can't afford food.
Gary, yeah, that's actually true. A lot of things they do that with. They make it. I hate to say this about our government, but our government, obviously, in the U.S., is based on being sick makes money.
Oh, that's true.
Now,
That's very true.
and it's unfortunate. We've seen it with the vape industry. We've seen it with other industries, but they do this. They
The
allow
sicker
things to
the disease,
happen to a degree because they can't, like, for instance, they can't cure cancer because if they cure cancer, think of all the doctors would be out of jobs, all the clinics would be out of jobs. They can't cure smoking because anti-tobacco groups would be out of jobs.
and more
Uh,
doctors, more medications that want pharmaceutical companies. I mean, yeah.
we're in a different spot than other places. Talking to people from the UK, they have different issues. Don't Not that they don't have issues, because they have different issues because of that. Like their medical care, some of it is out of reach because of that. Because we can pay to get what we want, regardless of what it is. But they're on board with the harm reduction situations because that saves the country money, or exactly the opposite. It costs them money. It's just, and
Believe
then you see
got
countries
a
look at
good
the
nowadays.
U.S. and make policy according to the U.S. when they don't even have the same structure in their government. Their government's in better shape, but they say, "Oh, that must be." No, it's not. It's just because that's what makes money. And the news used to be. Remember how they used to fight over the news?
Yeah,
Like they used to fight over the news of who could tell the true story first. Now it's just like who can tell the most obnoxious story first.
the most far fetched,
Yeah, who can get the most believed far-fetched story to go?
the biggest
Yeah.
bullshit. That's I mean, and
And
that's what it boils.
then when the real thing comes out, like when this virus started going around, I don't know about everyone else, but there was a lot of doubt about it. Even I did,
Oh,
because
what?
we've seen so many
Yeah,
lies.
you don't know what to believe.
And that's
And
unfortunate because if you
the
can't
Bible.
believe in them, that's going to create a situation where you're not as safe as you should be because you don't believe
I
in
mean,
something that
even
is
I've
true.
gotten to the point where they're even calling for a big winter storm down here this weekend.
Yes,
I
I
won't
heard
believe
that.
it till I won't believe it till it's on the ground. I don't believe anything, not even the weather.
80s and 90s had better weather forecasts than now. Explain that. With all the new technology, how come they can't tell us when something's coming? We used to know a week ahead of time back in the 80s and 90s if we had a nor'easter coming. And if they said it was coming, there was like a 90% chance you were getting it.
Lies.
Now it's like 50-50 if you get it or not.
Whoever can sell the biggest lies. It even just it boils down to the weather too. I mean, it just I
I don't
don't know.
know.
Understand it.
It's sad.
I don't. And you're right. I think the forecasts were more accurate in the 80s,
Well,
80s.
they went off the barometers, they went off the storm systems, and they had a general idea of the storm systems. The radar now is better. You would think that they'd be able to get a better estimation, but they're really, really terrible about it. Even hurricanes, when they hit, they had a better idea where they were going to hit. Now they'll say, "Oh, it's going to hit here," and next thing you know, it's hitting way up north, way south, or completely missing by.
You don't know where it's at till it makes landfall.
Yep. But it used to have a pretty good prediction system. I don't know what they had back then, but they should actually research it and go back to the old style, because
You
I
think, I mean,
I checked the weather forecast and I've checked it before and think, oh, 2, 3, oh, we're finally gonna have a warm spell, and then that day comes and it's like 10 below. It's like, what happened?
yeah,
Yeah.
our weather.
I
I
mean,
don't know.
I get it not being 100% accurate because that's almost impossible, but it feels like the accuracy went downhill. So
Our weather goes. It'll be. We can have all four seasons within a week's time.
yeah,
We'll go from
meteorologists are gone, weather girls are in. And I don't mind being a weather girl, but can she have a meteorologist background, please? So she knows what she's talking about?
and that's all the weather team on the channel that I watch, they all are meteorologists, not just forecasters. Every one of them are meteorologists, and they're all wrong. I'll
Yeah,
just leave it
they all have the same app on their phone that tells them the wrong information. That's all that means.
at evidently.
It's just
Something,
been,
I mean, I don't
but
know,
that's an
but it,
obstacle too. If you're planning ahead, like in your situations, because your mobility issue, if you're planning ahead for like a trip to dialysis or something, you kind of need to know what the weather's going to be like so you can prepare for it.
yeah,
And that can become a bigger obstacle. If you wake up in the morning and you have to go to dialysis that day, and all of a sudden you have 3 inches of ice outside, and you didn't know about that, you could have possibly went like the day before, maybe because it might have been in your gap.
yeah.
You could have
Or
went the day before. Yeah,
plan better on what I take in, as far as food and
yep.
especially liquids, because I can overload on fluids easily. You get too much fluid intake, you can't breathe, you have a heart attack. I mean,
Rusty
because
Lord, really? That's awesome, Jake.
it stores, all the fluid stores in your tissue because you don't urinate. So whatever you take in stays in until you go to dialysis. So taking too much, it just gets in the tissue and it'll press on your lungs. And it's
And
hard
if
to
you're planning for dialysis tomorrow, we're already running a day late or something, but you said, oh, okay, I'll just keep the appointment ahead. Maybe you had to skip one for some reason because of
yeah,
bad weather, but you knew there was it's supposed to be nice weather in a few days, and then it turns out to be an ice storm. That's important. So the accuracy could become your obstacle, and it could be deadly. So then you got to figure out a way around that.
this
Yeah.
happened. It has happened before. Because we get, most of the time, we get winter weather. Down here is ice. And I'd rather have a foot of snow than, you
Oh,
know,
I'd rather drive in snow than ice. Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
Christmas Day we had a layer of ice on everything, and I was slippery. I was supposed to work, so I went out, scraped off the car. I'm sliding around on the ice. Oh, she was laughing because she was watching me on the security cameras. I'm sliding all over, trying to scrape all the ice off the car, get all the ice off the car, back out of the driveway because I have a road that goes right between the center of my property, and
Yeah.
I backed out onto that and went to go out left on the highway. Well, I'm backing out, and as I back out, I get a phone call. Work's canceled. Like, 10 minutes ago. 10 minutes ago. That would have been great.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
always at the wrong time.
Oh yeah, no! I wait until I scrape off the car and almost kill myself standing on ice, and then you get the phone call, no work. And it's like, I don't mind. There's no work. I'm just upset you didn't call 10 minutes sooner.
Out there doing the redneck escapades for 20 minutes. And
I was just gonna go take care of the guys I take care of so they could go to church, but then they canceled church, so I didn't have to go. It's like, well, yeah, 10 minutes earlier would have been great.
yeah, that's the way it works out with everything, it seems. It
Yeah,
was raining.
I easily could have fell. That was really really scary. I couldn't believe how much I was sliding on it. But it was just this. It was probably about a quarter inch to 3/8 of an inch of ice on everything. Just this nice coat of hard ice.
doesn't take much. But we're
Yeah.
overdue for big snow down here.
We haven't had a really well. We've had a couple snowstorms, but we've had some pretty mild winters for the last 2 3 years. I'm not going to complain. We still had a really good freeze last year in January, and this has been kind of a little cooler than the average. Not for January, but it's been a little cooler this past couple weeks. It's kind of hoping we get lucky and have a year like last year where we had hardly anything, except for
The
that
last,
short period.
the last big snow we had was in 1988, and we got like 13 inches, foot somewhere around there. And I remember I was 16 then, so I was out of school for the whole like a week and a half. Because what would melt would freeze. It wasn't necessarily the amount of snow; it was just the ice that would form, and it never really got that warm during the day, just enough for it to melt a little bit, but it would get like really cold enough to freeze at night, and take forever during the day for it to melt again, and just it's like an endless cycle.
Yeah,
So, but we don't get a lot down here anyway, so that really crippled us. Everything was shut down.
oh, what happened there in Texas? It's because nobody's used
And
to it.
yeah,
And one of those things is like tires. Big thing with tires. You don't need winter tires in Texas in
no,
general. You don't get enough winter. But if you every and you can drive in a little bit of snow, whatever, with all seasons or summer tires. But when you get hit that hard, randomly for that long,
yep.
and
And
having
then
it not being prepared for it, you're slip and slide. You don't realize it unless you're
and the
from the north. You
homeowners
wouldn't even know.
wasn't either.
Exactly for vasectomy. I thought that was perfect. And my first surgeon for my first knee surgery is Dr. Cooley. I kind of liked him. He was a nice guy.
That's not cool. It's not cool at all.
No, it wasn't cool, but he was kind of cool. He was kind of a really nice, chill doctor. He did a
Yeah.
good job. I was able to walk again within a year and go back to sports. So, and then get injured my shoulder. So, I couldn't injure my shoulder if it weren't for him because I wouldn't have been able to walk.
The orthopedic doctor that done my knee surgery, his name was Waslenko. Get off of me, dude.
I can't pronounce my heart surgeon's name, so I'm not even gonna try.
And my pain management doctor, I just call him Dr. J. It's like Jakubowicz. It's I couldn't spell it if my life depended on it.
Yep.
It's Jakubowicz, I think is how you pronounce it. But yeah,
Hopefully it's not my
I've
internet
had some
connection.
strange named doctors. Come to think of it,
Oh, sorry about that, guys.
I
Maybe it's
haven't.
a storm coming. Apparently, it was a buffering issue. You're coming through perfectly clear, so usually that means okay, but that doesn't mean that winter weather doesn't affect your internet sometimes, and my internet. Um, Plus, I do have an update for Windows in the background that I didn't boot up in time to make sure it go through before the show. So that'll, how those linger and they'll act up. That could be it too. Uh, no, it's just I thought it was really important we talked about that work overcoming obstacles, and weather is one of them. And sometimes they
Really is.
they seem to pile. You ever notice how they seem to pile like this when once you have an issue, it just seems like and
It's
you can
like a
create. Some of them are
snowball.
created because of you having your mental block so focused on this problem, you're not even thinking about, oh, if I'm not careful, this could happen.
Yep.
Or you get stuck in a situation where you lose your job because you're out of work because you got sick. That creates a slew of problems. And I should ask this, and I haven't asked you this or Addie this. Addie, how's your mom? How's the wife? Jangles, how's your daughter doing?
She's cool. She's doing good. She's got
Good.
a boyfriend now.
Okay, so you're not doing good. Got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
she's good. I don't know about me. No, he's a good guy. He is.
Yeah,
He's a couple years older than her, but he's very respectful. And
that's good.
I told him the first night I met him, I have a beautiful daughter, but I also have a shovel and a really tight alibi, so don't try it. And I kind of do. My sister, she's a dispatcher for the sheriff's department here, so I guess I mean I might could get by with something for a little while. She'd tell on me though.
She tell anything.
She's always been a snitch.
Now I saw a post from a year ago on Facebook today, didn't I? Something about railroad tracks being removed.
Yeah, that's where I had surgery on my arm.
Yeah, I didn't.
Uh,
Now that must have been an obstacle to have to overcome because that was no small scar.
yeah, it was 32 stitches there. Yeah,
I saw that
and
post and it
then
just made. I was just thinking that had to have been recovery. Must have had some time to it.
well, it was for my dialysis access. I went in. I was having trouble with my arm not wanting to heal up. I mean, it would like just spray blood. I'm not trying
Ooh,
to gross anybody out, but it would, and like
pulse.
it looked like a crime scene in my bedroom a couple of times because it just opened up and started bleeding. But and it was a lot because it's basically an artery there because they take a vein and attach it to your artery to create the access because a regular vein can't hold up to getting stuck over and over and over and over. Well, it had been stuck so many times in that one spot, that one area that they were only able to use, which was about a 4 to 6 inch area that they were having to stick, 2 needles 3 days a week, 14 gauge needles. That's a big needle and it's a lot of holes in your arm. Well, the skin had broken down and it wouldn't heal up all the way. And what he was going to do was go in and exercise that skin and remove it and just pull it back together. Well, he decided that they weren't using enough of it, and while he had me under, he just took it upon himself to go ahead and elevate that vein. So I'll
Ooh,
go in thinking I'm going to have a incision about that long. When it turns out that it's from my wrist to my elbow, and which I'm thankful for it. Don't get me wrong, but I wasn't expecting what I woke up to.
no, I imagine you wouldn't. It looked like you. It looked like someone like had a compound fracture where it popped out, bone out, and it got put back. That's
Yeah,
how
but it was,
it looked.
and what's funny is most they any kind of stitch that they use on the inside they use a type that dissolves. Well, for some reason
Christopher
my
Earl.
body won't dissolve those, and eventually they work their way to the surface. So I've had 5 stitches to eventually work their way out since then, and
Oh,
it's
from the
kind of
inside out.
yeah, it's kind of gross, but it kind of freaks you out when you're looking at it and you're like, what the hell is that? A full stitch. I mean, it's still in a little circle, still tied. You can see the tails and everything.
They missed
Pops it
one.
out of your
They had some of them that they kind of had this little pull tab part where you could pull them out from the top. When I left them in my shoulder, my first surgery for my rotator cuff, and I had one they had missed because apparently it was down under, and it worked its way out. And it did. It freaked me out. I thought, what the heck is going on? I couldn't pick it. It can't quite pick it because it was a loop. I had to wait for it to come almost all the way out, and I realized I could cut it and pull it. But at first, it would kind of freak me out because it looks like almost like a bad blackhead, but it's like wiry. It's like, what's going on
Yeah,
here?
and these weren't stitches that they missed. These were supposed to have dissolved, over time. They didn't.
That might have a little to do with the dialysis situation too. Like you were saying, the
I'm
absorption
sure
might
it
be
does
different.
because I've had the same issue over here where I had an access before, and I've had to have some surgeries done where they worked their way out on the other arm. So yeah, I'm sure it does. But
Lady,
still, it kind of
Lady
freaks you
Liberty
out.
had to have a PICC line put in for her antibiotics when she had her toe
I've had
removed.
that before
And
too.
my son had several PICC lines done while he was in a coma for 3 months.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah, I
I
had
know
a
all too well what that's like.
yeah. The pick line they put in was almost in my armpit. It was
Yep,
really high in my arm.
yep.
And then I had one that were trying. I was in the hospital one time. I could tell, like I told you before, I could write a novel on the stuff I've been through, and I'm not lying. But I was in the hospital once. Ended up sepsis with a blood infection,
Yeah, Jake.
and oh, go
Uh,
ahead.
I was just saying, Jake, military incident took almost a year to get back to normal, and unfortunately never be normal. And that's whether physical or mental. Um, Things happen. You don't like. I know that. Okay, my knee, my shoulder, several times. Whatever, I'm stubborn. I'll still keep going. My heart, yes, I did take note to be calmer and more peaceful and not to worry about things as much. So sometimes they can really change the way you think, something you go through.
Most
Sometimes
definitely.
for the better, most times for the worse. PTSD kicks in. So,
Yeah, and if things happen over and over and over, like myself, thank God I've got a good outlook on things, and because if not, I would be so medicated right now. It's not funny, with all the stuff that I've been through myself, and I'm not trying to put a spotlight on myself, but I mean, it's true. If I was not an optimistic type of person, I'm pretty sure that I'd be in a nut house right now, and I'm not making a joke. I'm serious. I mean, understand how things that happen to people over and over end up in an institution, or just what people term identify as crazy. Mentally unstable. I don't like using the word crazy, but I can understand it.
you can understand where it can unsettle you to the point where you need to go there. Yeah. If
Yeah,
things keep piling up, piling up, piling up. Um,
but I was in the hospital, and it was on a weekend, and they couldn't. My veins were just almost non-existent. They couldn't get an IV in, so they were going to put a central line in, which is basically a PICC line.
yep.
This doctor, they didn't have a. I don't think they had a true vascular surgeon on call that weekend. So this doctor was going to try to put one in my groin, in my femoral artery, or somewhere down there. I don't know what he did, but I was laying flat, and it looked like a fountain shot almost up to the ceiling.
So he hit
So I
your
ended up
femoral artery.
sandbag. Yeah, I ended up. He didn't. He must have zigged when he should have zagged or something. But I ended up with a couple of sandbags in my crotch for a couple hours. And then he was going to try to go in my neck, and he didn't know what he was doing. And finally, they got somebody that got one in, but I'm surprised I didn't punch. It was like five or six of them. Didn't any of them know what they were doing? Obviously,
Yeah,
so you have
one or
to.
once or twice. I think it's twice, but at least once. I remember I had to put in the stick my son for his lines for his blood work because I was in the NICU and they couldn't get it, and I actually was really good at that when I was in EMT, so they had me do it because the woman that was in, she wasn't really good with people that had. He had a lot of scar tissue already built up from all the times I had to stick him, and I put it in. They're not supposed to let me, but they did let me on that one. I'm glad they did because she tried 4 or 5 times because I can't get it, and
You might have been able to
talked to
save
her.
his life, man. I
Well,
mean,
yeah, well, prolonged his life for another 2 years anyway,
yeah,
and he
and
passed.
yeah, but I think everything good or bad happens for a reason. I'm just that type of person.
Jake, I didn't realize you got hurt that bad. I knew how you got hurt, but oh, you're lucky
I can't
to
read
be
chat,
here. I'm
so
happy. I'm happy you're here, bro.
I can't read chat, so I don't know what's going on.
Oh yeah, a compound fractures of both shins, 6 ribs to the right, 4 ribs to the left, broke. Both wrists broke. Right arm above and below the elbow. Both collarbones broke. Jaw in 3 places. Cheek and the back of the head fractured. That's
Jeez,
actually.
man.
I thought my mother's was bad. She had her ribs broke, her back broke, and they punctured her lung, and she broke both her wrists when she fell off that roof. That's the day she got pregnant with my brother, though, because she couldn't have kids after me. So it broke loose scar tissue or something, is what they guess. But I thought hers was bad, but that's actually probably one of the most worst that I've ever heard of, Jake. I didn't. Ow. Glad you're here. You don't. You look good considering all that.
Especially be sitting there telling us about it.
Yeah. Lucky
That's
to be here.
crazy. Wow. That
All.
just
Oh, that's just brutal.
I don't know what to say to that. It's just wow. I mean, That's a lot.
And yeah, and we've seen Jake in Zoom before and stuff, and I would never have thought he got that hurt. You look good for that much of an
Some good
injury.
doctors out there.
Yeah,
There really are. There's some extremely good plastic surgeons out there
there are
that
some
do
good
good
doctors out there, and there's other
necessary
doctors out there that if
plastic
you
surgery.
with anything, mental health, physical health, if your doctor's not doing what you know they need to do and you know it in your heart, ask
Really.
around, try to find another doctor because sometimes it's just that there's not a mix between the two. Lethal, how are you doing, brother?
Howdy,
So
Chris.
no, it's important that you feel that you can trust your doctor and that your doctor is actually listening to you. How many
Most
times
definitely.
how many times have you seen where the doctors completely ignore certain symptoms? That's how my son actually wanted to wind up in it, and that's one of the reasons why we won the lawsuit is because of the fact that he went in. My doctor, my main doctor, who's also my doctor, said he has a possible ear infection. He doesn't. His fever continues and or he gets worse. Bring him back in. The next day, his fever got worse. Brought him in. His nurse practitioner looked in his ear. He doesn't have his ear infection's better. Sent him home with 103 temperature. It's like, what's wrong with you? It might have been 100. No, his is 101, I think at the time. But
Who's
it
over
went up to
100?
103 the next day. But still, that was because what I mean, she didn't look at all the symptoms. And if you feel that that's happening, don't not do something. And that was actually because of that incident. I always, if I know in my heart something's going on, I'm gonna push for it for me or my kid or anybody, because they
And
should. You know, if you know something's worse or something's different, don't give up. And if you need to switch doctors, it doesn't matter how long you've been with that doctor. If something's not working, get the help you need. Aw, hear that puppy.
she's not a puppy. She's a big
Never be
fat
sorry
lady.
for being late, Mallory. It's good to see you here. By the way, so you got some pretty good flavors going on there lately, there, Mallory. No, it's been fun. Yeah, I have been doing the mixing shows a lot lately. It's been a lot of fun. It's something to do I feel creative. It gives me that creative outlet again. Right now, there's a few things I'd love to do for creative, but with the pandemic, it's not the time for me to be able to do them. So this gives me that outlet, and it's actually been really fun.
I've enjoyed being on here today. I hadn't been anywhere in a while. I just
Well, you do
hadn't
have
been.
a good amount of experience both with the pandemic, what's going to happen with to you and your family. You have what's happened with you physically. You have a lot of knowledge of things that might help somebody. And there he is,
Yeah,
and he's alive. That makes me happy.
there.
I am alive.
There he is.
Hey, what's up, Jangles? Tim, I've missed you guys. How's everything?
Missed you
It's
too.
good.
Good.
I
So we're
said it
talking.
was this morning when I saw you.
You what, Jangles?
I
Yeah,
was about the same as it was this morning when I saw you.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Minus the video part.
I just
Nice.
want to ask, if you don't mind, Lethal, I did want to ask you one question because it came up tonight. How's work been about this? You being sick? How have they
What
been?
do you mean? In what terms? We've.
You still got
I
your
work
job,
at-
right? Yeah, but you still
Uh,
got your job, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so that
Um,
isn't a factor though, because we were talking about that. Some places won't keep you if you get sick.
No,
Because
and those places should be. I don't
Yeah.
know. Done away with. They should really revamp their medical procedures within that
Yes.
company and show their employees that they matter too. Um, Without the employees, there's no store to run. So,
Benji.
they try to take care of us. We do get COVID pay up to 2 weeks.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah, yeah. We are a really large company that I didn't think it was that big before because I'd never seen that many of them around. But apparently they're a big corporation, and so they can afford to do things like that. But I know that a lot of smaller companies that a lot of other people work for, they just can't do that.
Yeah,
And I
no,
think
that's
that
true. Mom and pops can't afford it. I get that. But if they, like Jangles was saying, if it's a good company, even if they can't afford to pay while you're off, knowing your job's still there when you're able to
yeah,
come back is also a
absolutely.
big thing.
One less worry you have to deal with on top of being sick.
Yep. They want us to make. They want to make sure our company, Tractor Supply Company, wants to make sure that our employees are in perfect health. We can't help the customers if we aren't there. You know what I mean? And they care about us. They don't want to have such a high employee turnover rate, so they want to keep us and retain us as much as possible. So they're going to give us incentives into, um, staying on.
That's what I was saying earlier. A lot of places with the way people
Oh,
are
Mallory.
either not wanting to work or not able to work, whatever reason, there's signs everywhere. Now hiring signs everywhere down here. So I don't see how they can afford to let anybody go that's out with COVID, especially
Oh, I'm
because
happy with Lethal situation too because you haven't been there an exceptionally long time, so
No,
that made a difference to me because I didn't know how they would.
two and a half
Sometimes if you haven't
months
been that place for a year, they typically will.
wouldn't do that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, yep. Nope. I've only been there for 2.5 months, and the COVID policies and procedures were in place before I was even hired. So, um,
that's good to hear.
but
One less
I mean,
obstacle you have to go over, and that's what we're talking about today is going through obstacles.
yes
I've
and
been.
no. Yes and no. You got to remember, it's also corporate. Corporate doesn't like to do anything in any time effective way possible. Like
That's true.
they wait and wait and wait. I tested negative. My wife tested positive, and I was exposed, which was the date of report, um, on the 6th of January. I didn't test positive until the 10th, and um, it was in that span of time that forget me. It's a long procedure, and I report, and then they put me on a list, and they say, "Well, it's going to be 24 to 72 hours before we get back to you," and then they'll do that again, and they'll do that again. But then there's also other paperwork that states that once we test negative, we have to quarantine for 5 days, no matter what, and then we do our call into our health company and they tell us how to proceed from there. Are we cleared for work? Can we go back to our job? Um,
And
but
if
it
someone in the
takes
household tests or you've been exposed, you have to take two
right.
tests typically. Yeah,
And I know that you guys have seen, as far as COVID's concerned, the rise in cases across America right now. Not
the Decepticon strain is quick acting.
it
It's
is
really
everywhere.
contagious.
So
Yeah.
in the past week, I've seen it go from the past 3 weeks when I first had our exposure at the store when I had to shut down. That was probably, I don't even remember the date on that one, but I had to shut down the store because we had an exposure first thing in the morning with one of our employees because they were a dipshit. Um, and then from that day, we had to do our call in to the health company and see if we would be cleared for work. Those, I already called. I'm the manager. I'm one of the guys that's supposed to call and talk to this company and find out what's supposed to go on, business wise. And
Aw, kitty.
they were like, anybody who's not vaccinated, you might as well just tell them to go home now because they're not getting cleared. So that lost me 2/3 of my employees that morning. And then there were two of us that were cleared to go back to work, but we can't operate a store of that size on just two employees. So I had to shut down completely. Um, then we all had to do our check-ins, and they were like, okay, you now have to quarantine for so long, or you have to take a test, and if you test negative, then we can clear you for work. Um, but once you're exposed and you're like really exposed like I was. My wife, I live with her. I sleep in bed with her every night. I'm right there. I couldn't avoid being exposed to COVID if she tested positive. Um, that was on a whole different level. And so for that one, I had to call in my exposure, and then they put me on that list. And it's been going on ever since the 6th up until yesterday, when they were like, oh, yeah, okay, so you tested positive on the 10th. How are your symptoms doing now? They ran me down a big checklist of questions. And at the end of the conversation, it was a simple, okay, well, call us on Monday. We'll have you back on Tuesday. Okay, we're assuming that the rest of these symptoms are going to go away, right? Because I don't want you guys just throwing me back to work before this is gone.
Exactly.
That's the problem. They want to get us back into work, but they want us to get back to work a little too fast, I think, sometimes. Almost like they're not rushing it, but they're jumping the gun. They're going to say, okay, you are going to be back into work on this day, but we don't know yet what your symptoms are going to look like in a week from now.
No, they don't know yet.
You know what
You
I
got-
mean?
Yep. My obstacles for this week haven't been COVID related, thankfully. But the last couple weeks, I had a tractor tire blow on the front of the tractor. So I had to get that up and running. Got that up and running, and then I've been fighting for the past week to get the tractor running. Starter fluid came in today, it's running. So I got to clear my snow
there you go.
finally. The rest of it, not by hand, because by hand is not fun. Especially when it first happened, I was still recovering, still coughing a lot. Going out in that cold did
Yeah.
not help. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, shed time?
Get off of me, dude.
Shed time?
Off of me.
I couldn't do any of that. I
No.
couldn't do any of that at the time. Nope. I couldn't. I actually quit vaping.
I
for a
couldn't.
while. I shouldn't have, because Lady Liberty never got as sick, and that's the only thing she did different. Other than she was able to eat a little bit, and I got nauseous to the point where I couldn't.
Like I've noticed loss of breath and like having to catch my breath and take a couple of minutes after I come up the stairs or something. But it wasn't that bad for me that I had to quit vaping. This is just how it affected me. Yes, I feel tightness in my chest. Yes, I feel shortness of breath. Do I think that I have it to the extent that a lot of other people have had it? Absolutely not. I'm considering myself lucky,
I
but
don't know
my
if it's a lot or what, but you look awful pale.
You do look a little pale tonight.
I feel a little pale.
Look, you drained. You look
Jake
good.
said over Thanksgiving he might have had COVID, and my aunt too in New York. She's pretty sure she got it. She just did the quarantine thing because they didn't even have enough tests anyway, I guess. But
I have no doubt that one Annette had it, that Danica and I had it.
and he said he had to cough and lost the smell. I had the opposite with the smell and taste though. I had super smell and taste, like everything over tasted and smelled, but it was making me nauseous. So everything was making me nauseous. So even you can really smell. The smell of food was just making me want to vomit. It was rough.
But I have no doubt that when Annette had it, that Danica and I had it, because we were like right on top of each other. And it was, she was sick for a couple of weeks before she ever went in the hospital.
Yeah, well, that was toward the beginning of everything too, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of
Yes,
people
a
did
year
that.
ago.
They didn't know they had to. I mean, just thought you had a cold, and it just keeps
Matter of
getting
fact,
worse.
This coming Saturday will be a year exactly when she went in the hospital. So this time a year ago, it was right before she went in the hospital. So, yeah,
Hmm.
I believe it's been a year already. But yeah,
The time flies, but at the same time, it feels like every day's a million years.
drives.
Yep.
It
Yeah.
drives, but it flies at the same time.
Isn't it weird how time can do that? It feels like a year's gone by, and it's like, where did that year go? But at the same time, every minute feels like an hour at times.
Yep.
And especially when you're worried about someone. if something's
Yeah.
going on and you're worried about someone. Like,
So I was
we've had
glad that I was the one that was affected the most. You know, my wife and my daughter really were the ones that worried me the most. But the fact that it hit me the hardest, I'm grateful for that in a way.
I wish it would have been me that got so sick instead of her, but I don't make those rules. I'm a grandpa. I'm a great grandpa now, by the way.
Oh,
Yeah, that's awesome news.
well, congratulations, Great Gramps.
That's just a term. I'm not really that old.
Lady Liberty didn't get as sick as me either, and that actually made me happier. I was really worried,
49 in
scared
10 days.
that something was going to happen there because, typically speaking, she gets sick worse than I do. This time she didn't, and I was really thankful for that. And it was the same thing. I got exposed, and by the time when I came down to the symptoms, it was already too late. She had already been exposed, and we knew, like you said, you knew she was going to get it. And this all happened because some old lady decided to go to church, knowing she had already tested positive. Went to church, spread it to the church, and then my buddy caught it from church, and I wound up going for a ride with him. He was he was not symptomatic at the time, but he's already contagious. So.
It's kind of similar to the way that the exposure happened at our store. I don't know if did I tell you about that one, Tim?
No, I didn't know about the exposure. I just was worried about you. That was all I ever asked.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's kind of similar because we, like, the week and a half before I tested positive, I was working double shifts because our employee roster at the store had been cut down by 2/3. 2/3 of us were out. I was one of 2 managers that were left, and it was just hell week for a week and a half. And it all happened because one of our employees showed up that day on a Monday, 2 days after her dad had tested positive, sick as hell, and just decided to show up to work anyways.
Yeah. No, this woman though actually knew she was positive. She tested positive, still went to church. It's not
Right.
she might have had it. She knew she had it, and still went to church. It's like, why would you do that? Why would you? And then she passed away. So she
Lord.
passed away from it. She didn't even make it through it.
This old lady.
She gave away her last gift. It wasn't a good one, but she gave away a gift to the church. That's all I can say.
Yeah, the girl that came in that morning, she'd already given her 2 weeks. That was her last, like, bye-bye.
Oh Lord. So what did y'all do to this girl? Y'all must have done something to these people to make them get revenge on you or something.
She had it out for my boss. She had it out for my boss, really.
She didn't have to do that to everybody that worked there, though.
No.
Yeah.
Not knowing that she was sick.
No.
We are going to get going here in a minute, so we can be off in time for Nick's stream, Grim Green's stream tonight.
The vlog.
The vlog night.
Vlog
It's
night.
good to see that he's doing well this year so far, so that's actually always a positive. And I see he's putting out more of his reviews again and stuff too, so that's actually
Yeah,
nice.
Been pretty consistent.
It was pretty quiet last year, so I'm hoping this year's a little bit better than last year. It seems like
Starting off that anyway.
it is starting off better. Now, if we could just get a little contagion going, from the UK politics to our politics, we'd be in better shape. But
Yeah, I'm not holding my breath on that one anytime soon anyway.
Yeah.
yeah, and I hope everybody does stay well and reach out to those people you haven't heard from. It does make a difference. There were a couple of those people that I went through a list the other day and just reached out and checked on everybody. That's but actually it was Lethal's fault. I'll blame him for me reaching out to everybody because when I heard you were sick, I reached out to you and I just decided, hey, you know what? It's been a while. Let's go through this list. 4 or 5 people came back to me. They were actually going through stuff that I'd never knew about. A couple of them said nobody knew about it. So that actually was like that reach out they needed because they wanted to vent but were not doing it because they were kind of stuck in themselves, which is easy. It's the natural state, we think.
I've been in it for the last 3 or 4 months, so I understand.
Yep.
But I'm gonna try to start making my rounds again.
Please do. I miss your
Please
face.
do. Please do. And I will be back live again on my channel. It's just when I got sick, I couldn't. And then just getting back into it, it's like hesitating. And then last week,
Right.
I was gonna go live with the weekend, and our last goat passed. So it's like
I'm
I
glad to
had to
see
deal
you
with that.
still doing this thing. There's so many people that aren't anymore.
Well, mental health is never gonna go away. No matter what happens
No,
with the industry, other industry, mental health's not gonna go away. We still need to be reminded. I need to be reminded every now and then. This helps me remember that the self checks are important. Checking yourself as well, not just others.
that's very true.
It's hard because you don't even notice it. We can be depressed, and when you're depressed, you don't always know you're depressed. You feel it, but you're not really. You're like in denial, I guess is
When
the
you're
best
in
way
the
to put it.
hospital with others,
Yeah, you can get yourself in
it's
self
helping
denial.
some people realize when you're the one that's depressed.
Yep. And I didn't realize how depressed I was until I started doing this. The more it lifted me out of it a little bit, being able to help occasionally,
I didn't
it
realize
lifted
until
me
this
up
week
and realized I didn't even know how far down I was.
what you get.
Yep.
Don't just leave me alone.
Yep.
You going to Ohio?
Me?
I'm not going to
Yeah, you
Ohio.
too.
No, I'm not traveling to Ohio. Not
Okay.
right now. I can't. It's winter time. I gotta keep the house warm.
This is true.
Although we are running out of outside animals slowly but surely, sadly. But they're all getting old. That's why. It's not like they're the young chicken. Well, chicken was
Spring
the
chicken.
oldest one. Chicken was the oldest one. She's still out there. She's still fine. She still comes out and cuddles with me every day. So it's like, okay. She
Cuddle
used to
with a
be
chicken.
mean. She used to be mean. She just one day when the other chickens started dying off, she became the lovable one. I don't know what happened. So
What are you doing to the
weird.
Like,
chicken?
don't make me go. Don't make me go.
I don't know. She'll come over and
How,
sit on. She'll sit on my foot until I pet her. She won't let
how
me.
are you
She'll just
killing
sit there
off
until.
chickens? How are you killing off chickens?
She's one of the ones that lays the blue Easter eggs, and she still lays every once in a while. It's just not consistent. But,
Rhode
yeah.
Island Red? Don't
No,
they
it's
lay blue eggs too?
no. Rhode Island Red's a brown eggs.
I know they lay brown ones, but they can lay like violet and they can lay some odd colored eggs.
I forget what this is. Americana or something like Americana, but it's not Americana or something like that. Some weird version that starts American. So, um, but yeah, let's go around the room here and let everybody know. What if you want to let them be able to reach out to you, or just tell them whatever
I'm
you would
always
like to
open.
say for everybody. But Jangles, you go first. Seems like you were here first.
Don't put me on the spot.
But
You
but
know,
your
I'm always
Jangles, we just got over Christmas, and Jangles was the perfect thing to go with first.
Mm-hmm.
open. Oh, he not this holiday. He wasn't. I tell you, you want to talk about depressed? I sat in my room from Thanksgiving through Christmas. Here.
Marijuana. I was right. It was Americana. Okay.
I
Right there.
didn't
She
talk
put
to anybody.
Americana. Americano. I mean.
But Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's, it was just another day for me. But I'm always open for anybody to reach out. I'm easy to find. Everybody seems to find me when they want to. So, no, I'm always open. And my phone number's even, on my Facebook page. If you want to talk. I'm always up. I'm always here. Anytime, anything, anything said stays between us. It don't go any further. So, want to talk? Here I am. I'm not saying I'll be the best advice giver, but I can definitely listen and try to lift your spirits, if nothing else.
That's awesome. Lethal. How about you? What are you doing these days? Well, what will you be doing? I'm not sure if you're back into everything again yet.
Not really. I'm not really doing anything at all these days. Mainly working my butt off when I'm not home quarantining.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm not doing anything.
Well,
I'm just chilling.
that's good.
If you guys want to get a hold of me, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. You can find my old videos and stuff on YouTube. I did some stuff on Twitch. You can find me there too. But yeah, email and messaging is pretty much where it's at for me. You can get a hold of me on any one of those platforms.
All right.
That's it.
Lando, what do you got? I know something's starting again, so go ahead.
About goddamn time. Sitting here waiting for your ass to feel better and shit.
I will tell you, I mean, and that's one of those things. I had to wait until the congestion was gone. It's one thing to do this show. I could get away and muddle through like I muddled through in a couple of the shows where I wasn't 100%. But recording a podcast, that's no. You didn't want that wheezing and coughing. It was bad. And there he goes coughing.
Like that.
Just like that, except for a lot worse.
That was just an example.
As an example.
Yeah. But yeah, the podcast is finally coming back. After a very too long break.
It's been a while.
It was 2 months of
But,
being very sick, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, our last episode was on November 6th. We haven't recorded since. But we will be recording one tonight. And then, yeah, it'll be up by, the hell do I do it again? It's been so long. Oh yeah, Saturday. Can you tell we haven't done it in a while? That's what she said. Anyways. But yeah, you can find me on Instagram. That's Lando.15. I have a Discord for my podcast. I posted a link a little bit ago. You can also find me on Twitter. I mean, I don't really use it that much, but that's on the link that Addie posted a little bit ago. So, yeah, that's where you can find me.
And me, I'll be getting back to the Thursdays at 6 p.m. Eastern and the Saturdays at 9 p.m. Eastern shows on this channel. And then on Sundays on Vaping Truckers channel with Mixers Helping Mixers. And Tuesdays, Tuesday Takeover on Fresh 03's channel. And then on Wednesdays on Benny Vape's channel with the UK e-liquid mixing show. And then join the Break the Stigma with Unity Discord if you haven't already, as long as you're willing to join the Discord. It's a great place to get help or help others. And other than that, yeah, got the What in a Horror podcast with Lando. And that's about it. So, yeah, you guys have a good night and have a good year. And let's make this a better year than last year. Some of it's just the way we have to think. We just have to think more positive. Be more positive. It's hard. It's difficult, but we can do it. I know we can do it as a family and together. So,
Yep.
Have a good night and enjoy Adam Pilarzik's music on the way out. That's his cover song, by the way, that you heard if you were listening at the beginning. And here we go. Bye, guys. Bye.
Later.
Adios.
I sit around and watch the tube, but nothing's on. I change the channels for an hour or two. Twiddle my thumbs just for a bit. I'm sick of all the same old shit. In a house with unlocked doors, and I'm fucking lazy. Bite my lip and close my eyes. Take me away to paradise. I'm so damn bored, I'm going blind, and I smell like jam. Peel me off this Velcro seat and get me